This is a photograph of my grandma and granddad taken in the Lebanon in 1963, Tom and Kath. They were married 49 years before granddad passed away. They loved to travel, and this is just one of many photographs that we have of them. They loved to travel, but they spent a large part of their traveling time looking for things. Grandma had a habit of taking the travel money, the passports and the tickets, and when they arrived, she would put them somewhere safe. And then at the end, when it was time to go home, they couldn't find the safe place. So it was kind of a joke. We all knew that they were going to have some kind of story about losing something. After Grandad passed away, we all spent a lot more time with Grandma, and in those years, the next 10, 12 years, we spent a lot of time looking for things. We looked for her glasses, and one day I was dispatched to her house to look for her teeth. And we searched and searched for 3 hours looking for her teeth. We looked in the toilet cistern, we looked under mattresses, we looked everywhere. No teeth. At lunchtime, she came in to me and said, "You silly fool, I've got my teeth in." And I looked at her and I said, "Well, I didn't know that those were the teeth we were looking for." We were so used to looking for her teeth that to me, to go and look for the teeth, it was just, okay, I'll look for the teeth. Grandma was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease 2 years before she passed away. We didn't know that she had Alzheimer's disease, and we'd spent a long time wondering, or just, getting frustrated. And we have a lot of funny stories about that time, but we also have a lot of sadness and a lot of guilt. Back in the mid-90s, there was no internet, and there was very few places to get information. And there was a lot that we didn't know. We didn't know that Alzheimer's disease is just a form of dementia, and that there are hundreds of types of dementia. We didn't know that it was common. There's around 850,000 people in the UK at the moment with a diagnosis of dementia. 1 in 3 people over the age of 65 will develop symptoms of dementia. And while I'm talking today, 240 people around the world will develop symptoms of dementia. It's very common, and we weren't alone. We didn't know that Grandma's mind maybe felt a bit like a bookshelf, and her memories were being stored on those shelves. Her most recent memories were on the top shelf, and those furthest away were on the bottom shelf. When that bookshelf started to wobble, the first books that fell off were the ones on the top shelf, her most recent memories. And the ones that everything she could remember from when she was young and work were the ones on the bottom shelf. When finally Grandma's bookshelf completely collapsed, possibly that's how her mind felt. If we'd known that, we would have known how to gear conversations to help her. But since then, I have had the pleasure of working with some amazing people who live with dementia, carers, and people living with a diagnosis. And I've learned a lot about things that we could have done. And today I want to share with you some of the small changes that you could make if you're working or helping somebody living with dementia. So the first is, don't keep asking, do you remember? Do you remember what you had for breakfast? Do you remember what you bought at the shops? Do you remember who you saw at church? If you ask me what I had for breakfast this morning, it was a long time ago. This has been a stressful day. No, I don't remember. But if you ask me, did you enjoy your poached eggs and toast this morning? Oh, yeah, that rings a bell, actually. Yeah, I did. But if I didn't remember eating my poached eggs on toast, it doesn't matter, because I can engage in the conversation with you. I can pretend I had poached eggs on toast for breakfast, and I don't have to feel quite so silly that I've forgotten. The second is to try not to contradict or always be right. We all love to be right, and there's nothing more frustrating than knowing that you're right and you can't say, I told you that 10 minutes ago. No, you do know that. But all that does is cause frustration for you, and it causes frustration and anxiety for the person that you're talking to. Maybe if the conversation's getting stressful, think about that bottom shelf and think about something that you can talk about that you'll both agree on, that's a nice, happy memory that can make the time that you're spending with the person a little bit more enjoyable than arguing about something that you're not going to be right, even though you know you're right. The third is stepping into somebody's reality. Somebody recently told me, a friend of mine who is living at the moment with dementia, and he said, when he crosses the bridge, it's easier sometimes for the people around him to cross the bridge with him rather than him having to go back over the bridge. If I just give you an example of that, my grandma had a budgie. After Grandad passed away, we got her a budgie, and she called him Tommy, after Tom. She loved that budgie, and he followed her around, and he sat on her head most days, went everywhere with her. Tommy died. And in those years, Grandma found herself a little purple furry bird. And it wasn't real, it was a soft toy, but she thought that this was Tommy. And this Tommy came everywhere with her. And I remember once I said to her, "But Grandma, that's not Tommy. That's a furry toy." And she was really upset by that because she didn't realize at that moment that Tommy had died and this bird, this furry toy, wasn't Tommy. I felt really bad about that. I knew then, just to go along with it, that the furry bird was Tommy, and Grandma was happy with that. The fourth is to take time. Take time to be aware. Northern Ireland, 20,000 people living with dementia at the moment, and is working very hard to become a dementia-friendly community. A dementia-friendly community is just a friendlier community, friendlier for us all. It's a community where we take time with each other, we're patient, and we're aware of what it means to have dementia. Take time for yourself. If you're worried about your own memory, afford yourself that time so that you can make some plans. Take 30 seconds in the supermarket with somebody that's maybe a little bit disorientated, and even if they don't have dementia and you've helped them out, you've done a nice thing anyway. Or take 30 minutes with that neighbour who, since their diagnosis of dementia, feels isolated, and it's the main thing that they feared from getting that diagnosis is that loneliness and isolation. So take time to learn something from their bottom shelf. There is no cure for dementia, but it's in our future. By the time I'm 85, myself or the person next to me will have dementia. So we have to prepare ourselves for the future. And by doing that, we can make life easier for everybody that's living with dementia, be it a carer or an individual. I don't have any more time with my grandma. I wished I did. I would have enjoyed looking for things with her, and I would have cherished looking for things like her teeth. Thank you.